What's going on, everyone? We are live here in the Holtman building for the first episode of the Zach Kaz podcast, where Kaz is going to ask me a bunch of questions and talk about life in the pursuit of happiness, I think.
Definitely are. And typically I don't do podcasts. This is going to be a one-off. And I'm going to ask questions that people typically don't ask because I've seen a few interviews you've done.
Yep.
And at this point, I feel like everybody knows Zach's story, who he is. But we're going to ask some questions that he's not used to. You ready?
I'm ready to roll. Let's do it.
Okay. So the biggest question that a lot of society has right now is you didn't have daddy's money to buy these massive projects. One of them being 37 million, 36 million, right?
37.5 million project cost total.
But your dad is also really rich. So what is how can you explain that?
You know, two things can be true at the same time. My dad has done very well with his life. He is a serial entrepreneur. He got done with the University of Nebraska, moved down to Kansas City, had a bunch of startups, all failed, and then eventually one stuck, did very well, had a good exit, and then now he runs a venture capital fund here in Kansas City. Both can be true. You can have successful parents. You can have people that will be in your corner and support you, but also not have a blank check from your father or going to your father's friends and asking for funds. Not to say that he's not an investor, 100%. I've made very clear about that. My dad is an investor on the Aladdin, but my dad didn't write us a $38 million check. We have 32 investors. If my dad was able to write a check like that, no one would. That's insane. You don't just give your kid money like that.
Right.
Even if you believe in them and it's your child. But you know, both things can be true. And I think people, they don't quite understand that. But most people, when they come from money or they have parents and people that are successful, they don't get that you too can be successful.
100% true.
Because I grew up with the mindset of, you know, risk was not risk. Risk was the entry fee to life. You know, that's just what it was. So both can be true. People, if they don't like that, they don't like that. But you know, my plan is to take what I have and compound and grow and scale, and with all the resources, connections, and everything that I have, and you can't just do things.
And that's a great answer because a lot of people, even if they have rich parents, they typically not typically, but a lot of times end up becoming degenerates.
Yeah.
And the difference is you had the agency to actually use funds, not from your dad, by the way, but funds to actually go do big projects. And you're 24, by the way, taking on a 16-story hotel.
Yeah, and even if like people are like, oh, well, even if it's not daddy's money, it's probably all of his friends. What friends of your parents would still blindly write a multi-million-dollar checks to a 23-year-old just because he's your friend? Like, that's still the argument is still just as insane.
The business plan has to make sense.
Exactly.
And it did.
100%.
So obviously you raised a lot of money to do this project and you're very young.
Yes.
You think if somebody else your age tried to copy your playbook, would they succeed?
They can, yeah. You just have to put together the right team. And I talk about the team all the time, but there are so many people involved in the Aladdin project. And when it came time for us to raise funds, that's just how it works. Hunter, Max, Ben, Joe, myself, there's so many people that are involved in even on the upfront development aspect. So yes, you just have to put yourself in the right rooms, put yourself in the right positions, ask the right questions, come into things overly prepared. And again, yes, you can totally do things.
And then what did you tell your parents the night before you signed the Aladdin?
What did I tell my parents? I mean, they knew that we were buying it. They knew that, I think it was crazy that what we were doing. They were excited, but nervous at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Did your parents ever tell you to stop? Don't do this. It's too big.
No.
They always told you yes.
No, I mean, at first there was definitely hesitation and questions. I remember I told my dad, I was like, hey, I'm buying this building. He was like, what? I was like, yeah, you know, I think this is a good opportunity, blah, blah. And he was a little anxious for me, but at no point was he telling me, did he tell me to stop or that he didn't believe in me? Obviously he asked questions and I knew the answer to those questions to the best of my ability. And if I didn't, I'd went out and find them.
Right.
But I don't need anyone's approval to go do things. And neither do you.
That's amazing. Yeah, nobody does. And then, so you raised $6 million equity, right?
Yeah, the Aladdin was a $6 million raise. And then this building was a $3 million raise.
And then how many no's did you have to go through before you got a yes? And if not many no's, why?
We got, let me think, I would say 50%, 80% said yes.
That's pretty high.
But then 30% of that 80% didn't commit, because it's easy for someone to say, yes, hey, I'll give you money. That looks like a cool project. But then when it comes time to sign the docs, wire over the funds, something always comes up. So our rule of thumb is if we're going out and raising $6 million, we want to go get $12 million of commitments. Just because something's going to happen, something's going to fall through. It's a lot easier to take more money and get money back if you don't need all of it than to not have enough and be like, oh shit, we need more. So that's what we did. But again, about 80% said yes, and then 50% closing. So we talked to probably 80 different people. If you're not comfortable, until you're ready to raise money, if you're not comfortable calling every single fucking person that you know in your Rolodex, in anything, and asking them for money, then you're not ready to do it. Yes, you're calling your family, you're calling your friends, you're calling your friends' friends. I'm calling my old professors. You're calling all the subcontractors. I think that's the other unique part about the Aladdin project that most people don't realize when we talk about the investors. 50% of that $6 million came from individuals that are directly working on that project. I'm talking our general contractor, multiple subcontractors. They are individuals that are investors that I had met throughout the process of vetting that deal that had no correlation with myself or my family or family friends, anything. It was literally people I'd met 2 or 3 times and said, hey, this could be a great alignment. You guys are working on this project. I want you guys to do this.
100%.
But also, if you think you believe in the timeline, the budget, the scale, 40 to 50% of that project is focused on the MEP side of things, the mechanical engineering and plumbing. If those things were off on timeline or off on budget, that dramatically affects it. That's why every single person that owns their MEP company that are working on the Aladdin project,
Invested in the
they are an
project.
investor.
That is huge.
Huge.
The fact
Vertical
that,
alignment is unbelievable.
yeah,
And even this building, the Holtman, the general contractor who is moving into the office space on the first floor, that is doing the construction of this, on top of that, and building out their own TI, they are also an investor on this project because it all flows together. We all want this to happen, to succeed. We're all incentivized, all on the same page.
they have more vested interest in the project.
100%.
And
They don't want the cost to go over, because if it goes over, it just hurts the returns that they're getting.
Exactly. It's a double-edged sword for them.
Bingo.
So, by the way, right now we're sitting in the Holtman building, which, if I understand correctly, this is your second project, right?
Yep, this is number 2.
And the first was the Aladdin, which there's going to be some B-roll throughout this podcast of it. But imagine you didn't purchase the Aladdin. Something fell through, the price was too high, or something didn't work out.
The Aladdin was the foundation of everything. We wouldn't be sitting here. There's no way.
That was my question, is how different would your life be? What other projects would you be taking on? Would the Holtman even exist as one of your projects?
Probably not. I mean, so the Holtman, I closed on the Aladdin in June of 2024. I then looked at the Holtman building in October of 24. Price didn't work, it just didn't make sense. And then said no, came back around then, broker called me in May of 25. And then we finagled, worked through price, and some other things happened within the ownership group of this building. We were able to put it on our contract for a great number, and we closed on this in August of 25. So it came back around. It came back around because they saw the work that we were doing on the Aladdin and said, hey, you're the buyer for this. Let's do it. Let's make it happen.
So you got such a great price on the Aladdin, and then same with the Holtman. And part of it was because the sellers were a little bit more motivated to sell. But do you think there were any other external factors that caused the sale to be at a lower price? Was it interest rates, or was it another factor?
No, I mean, it was non-refundable earnest money. I mean, we put down non-refundable earnest money on the Aladdin. We had 30 days to go close and raise $3 million.
How much was that amount?
$250,000.
That's a lot to go hard.
Yeah.
What is that? That was 10% of the purchase price. About? Wow, that's pretty high. And if I was a seller and I knew you were serious with the 250,000,
well, that was the thing. They wanted to know, they were done with the building. They wanted to make sure it was in the right hands. And when I was talking with the owner, he was an older gentleman. He's like, I believe in you, and I trust that you'll close on this. He goes, but you got to put yourself in my shoes. You're a 22-year-old saying that you're going to go buy this building from me. I need to make sure that you actually can. He's like, I just need some sort of level of confidence. And that was our level of confidence that we had in our ability to go and put it together.
It's crazy because at your age, I think one of the things that pushed you so far, he's only 24 still, is your enthusiasm and your relentless energy and passion. And that's where it's all rooted from.
Confidence and passion go a long way.
And then,
what's up, brother?
What sacrifices did you have to make that not many other people see?
A lot. There's always sacrifices in life. Time, commitment, family, friends, significant others. There's always sacrifices you have to make. And at the end of the day, you can only choose your own peace. It's your life. It's your world. So, there's always going to be something that goes on. In order to build and create something that's huge, there's going to be a lot of bumps in the road. There's going to be a lot of doubters. There's going to be a lot of things. But you don't rise by being understood.
Very true. And being 24, being young, and still kind of seeking through this pool of information about how to take on such a big project like the Aladdin, I'm assuming you had to reach out to a lot of people for a lot of pieces of advice. Now, was there ever a piece of advice that you just heard and did not want to take, or even took and regretted?
No, not yet. So a lot of my mentors have been very, very good.
Nice.
On the real estate side, and the investment side, all of that. My partners, again, everyone. There hasn't been a bad piece of advice yet. There will be at some point, but not that I've taken.
And one question I asked you yesterday off camera, but I'm gonna ask again is I asked, have you ever cried on a job site? And you said no. But when will you?
Not yet. So we were talking about that, and when we open up the Aladdin, I definitely will. When we have the grand opening and the big celebration, because that started us. That started Molzer Development, and I tell our team, Molzer Development doesn't start until that Aladdin opens up, because what we've built over the past 2 years has been great. But when our first project, the Kahuna, what the legacy, the Kickstarter, everything, when that building opens, it's not we're doing it, it's we did it. What's next? Let's roll. So that moment, I'll definitely cry. I already got my speech written, and
Nice. And
it's
I'm
juicy.
maybe I'll cry too. I'll shed a tear.
Hell yeah.
So you got a lot of attention online now on Facebook, Instagram,
Yep.
LinkedIn. What's the meanest comment somebody's made?
Meanest comment. Remember when we were Anna's here. Remember when we were sitting at this table and I got a call and this dude was like, "Fuck you, you're a scammer."
No
He was
way.
pretending to be an investor.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was like, "What is going?" It was weird. I don't like. He was not happy.
Did you know him personally or
No,
no?
it was a star 67, so it was like an unknown caller ID.
Wow.
It was crazy.
He was like a pretend investor, and he was like, "I want my money out."
Yeah, he's like, "I want my
Are
money
you
out.
what?
You're
He's like,
scamming."
"I
I was
want to
like,
pull my 300 like $1,000 out."
I
Did
was
you
like,
what'd you say? Like
I was like, "What are you talking about, dude?" There's a video of it somewhere.
another interesting question. Do you think you're one of a kind?
Yeah, everyone's one of a kind. But yeah, there's something that makes me extremely special. But I'm definitely different.
Yeah.
What goes on between the ears is definitely a little different than the average person, I would say.
Mm-hmm. You could say that again. I don't
Yeah.
see many 24-year-olds buying 16-story buildings. And then for the viewers watching who want to get into a deal, what makes a real estate deal too risky for you?
It goes down to two things: location and basis. Those are the most important things with any project, whether it be a stabilized deal, a ground up deal, adaptive reuse. Location and basis. You can't change location, but location can change, and you cannot change your basis. So make sure you're buying it right.
Have you ever walked from a deal and immediately regretted it?
No.
Because you always know.
Yeah.
You always analyze.
I'd rather eventually there'll be a time where I'm still early enough in the career where there'll be a time where I will pass on a deal and then somebody else will end up buying it and they'll make it work. And I won't regret it because they saw something wherever that I didn't. And that's real estate. If everybody knew the same thing as everybody else, then there would be no deals out there.
That's
Right.
true.
So regret's not the right term, but yeah, there's going to be like, damn, I looked at that
Yeah.
and holy shit, I could have bought it for this.
The-
And I think that we would have had that same thing if we didn't buy the Latin.
Tell me about the project that's being built right across the Latin, because in my opinion, that's one of those positive factors of the deal that you didn't really see in the beginning. And what is it? And
We knew that it was getting ready to happen. We had some insider knowledge that that was getting ready to get funded. But if it didn't, it wouldn't have hurt the project. But being that it did, I mean, it definitely took it to the next level. So Barney House Plaza is $120 million redevelopment of Barney House Plaza, the park, an underground parking garage. We have a tunnel that connects directly to the Aladdin.
huge.
Two retail spots, a dog park, children's park, town pavilion, spot for tents and food trucks. It's a huge project, and the city's been trying to find the funding and work on that for a decade. And it's under construction right now. It should be wrapped up in December, and that's big for us.
That's
to have an
huge.
amenity like that, 2.5 acre park right across the street. is
Seriously,
huge.
yeah, and for the viewers not understanding this park is immediately across from the Aladdin, which as an amenity space with not much green space in a downtown, that is huge.
It's unbelievable.
Huge. And then, so obviously, the Aladdin's a huge project. You need to have a trusted contractor, and you probably haven't had one that's done a project this big for you. How did you make the decision on the contractor, and what made you trust him?
That was our team all together, collectively putting our heads together of knowing what projects the contractors worked on. The big thing from mitigating risk standpoint, especially from through the lender's eyes, was they wanted to see that yes, we were young, but how do we mitigate the risk of us being young? It was put together a team that knew what they were doing and knew that had done projects that we could show them an example of. So between our architect and our general contractor, we chose a contractor and architect that have worked together on multiple historic tax credit projects of similar size in Kansas City together and collectively that turned out to be successful. That proof right there over showing the lender was like, okay, yes, I get it.
Track record, insurance, any
Yep.
of those matter?
Yep, all of that, 100%.
So the worst day at the Aladdin so far, what was it, and why did it happen?
It was when we were trying to remove all this furniture, and when we had first bought the building, but we needed it out in like a month, and there were still so many floors left over. And so Hunter and Max and I, we put on Facebook Marketplace, hey, open house at the Aladdin, like we just need all this furniture gone, it's free. Just come raid the place. Bad idea. There was 40 box trucks lined up and down Wyandotte Street,
Are you
meth heads inside,
serious?
like everyone fighting over furniture. Oh, that's my pile. That's my pile. It was not good. It was not fun.
And then what's the biggest lesson you've learned so far at your young age? Which is crazy. We're asking a 24-year-old this, but he knows. He has some lessons.
From a development standpoint, it's don't over leverage and always have more funds. Things are always going to cost more than you think. And again, it's better to over raise, have more cash, and be able to give it back than have to ask for more.
That's a great lesson.
Because I mean, especially when you're dealing with these old buildings, it's always going to cost more.
That's really true.
I mean, the Aladdin, we have a very large contingency, and we will use all of it.
What is it, 15%, 20%?
12.5%.
12.5%
of hard costs, and then we have other parts on soft
for
costs.
soft costs and finance costs, right?
Yeah.
And then what's the biggest misconception you think your viewers have about you? Because all they see is your videos online, and they don't get to meet you in person like I'm doing right now, which is also a privilege.
I don't know. That'd be for them to decide. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe drop below in the comments what you think. What else you want to know?
I guess the last thing, because I know a lot of the viewers watching this are going to be people looking to get into deals, maybe not as big and juicy as the deal he has, but where would you tell them to start? Assuming they have at least a little bit of knowledge on analyzing deals.
Yeah. For always, you start by building up your Rolodex of people, of again, finding and knowing the right people to talk to when the right deal comes. You don't find a deal and then raise funds. You plant seeds of, hey, I'm looking at opportunities. I'm looking at deals. Eventually, when I come across a deal, I'd love to know your interest level. I'm looking at it. You know what you could ideally raise before then you size the project, right? So like right now, a year ago, I wouldn't have ever looked at a $50 million or $100 million project because I would know, hey, I've got to go raise this amount, or I need a family office or someone else to come in to help with this size. Well, if you do know what you can put together and raise, I now can go look at a $100 million deal. So if someone watching can raise, let's say, $1 million, size it, you can probably go and look at somewhere between the $3 to $5 million project and feel comfortable.
So to you and I, raising $1 million sounds easy because we can put together teams that have the track record. But what about those people who don't have money and don't have a track record? How can
I
they?
didn't have a track record and I didn't have money. I worked at a development shop for 2 years, but I would argue that wasn't necessarily a track record, but the track record you had was, again, putting together the deal team, putting together the structure, finding a good opportunity where it's, hey, if this doesn't work, it still works. You mitigate their risk. And the other part is we sized that deal and made sure that we add, when you're doing a project and you know that, let's say there's a X% split, because there's a risk associated with any project, we added some upside for them because they were taking an additional risk, not just with the investment, but with an investment in a younger development team. It's sized like that. When we're doing our 10th project in the next couple of years, then the returns, the splits will not be as favorable to the LPs. They'll still be very favorable, obviously.
Right.
But we gave up a lot to do the Aladdin. So people say, oh, Zach owns this $38 million building. Zach owns this. No, I don't. We gave up a lot to be able to do it. But that foundation, us giving up a lot of the ownership and equity in that project, will pay dividends in the future projects that we do, because all that does is keep burning and churning and building more reputation. There are a lot of different owner, operators, developers that would love to partner, and I'm one of them. If someone brings me the right opportunity, I'm totally down to collaborate, cut them in on the GP side, in a way, like educate them. Obviously, we would want control, we would want ownership, all that fun stuff. But yeah, I mean, that in my opinion is one of the best ways to do it, is to co-GP it, JV it, find a deal, source, vet it, make sure that you do what you can that brings value. Because if you bring value, then the world's yours.
And actually, to talk on that, funny example, personally sitting right here is, I'm from Los Angeles. He's from Kansas City, and he's clearly converting a big project. Over the past few months, I've been looking for massive office projects because I know if I find the right one, that I could have a co-GP like Zach, who has experience, come in and work with me
100%.
as a JV or some sort of structure, and we raise money from limited partners and put everything together. Now lenders would trust me more, even though I've never done it, because I got a guy like this
100%.
on board. So the government paid you millions to convert this building.
Paid is aggressive. It's called a tax. There's a couple of routes. We have a tax abatement, so it freezes our property taxes because, again, the project, if it was abandoned, was vacant, it was producing no money for the tax roll. The tax jurisdictions weren't making anything, and it needed significant dollars to be able to bring it back on the payroll. But in order to do that, we need some level of assistance. So we have that, and then on top of that, the historic tax credits. So we have state and federal historic tax credits on the Aladdin, 25% from the Missouri state government, and then from the federal government, 20%. We bridged those tax credits, so the 45% tax credits on our project costs. We bridged those, got a loan for it up front through a lender. That's then money that's injected into the deal, and then those tax credits are paid out. The state credits over 1 year, and then the federal credits over 5 years.
I see. And you're looking to hold this project for a very long term?
You'd have to push me off the roof to get me to sell it.
Okay, well, we're not going to do that because
Ideally.
Aladdin's pretty tall task that you're
Yeah, I don't
taking
think
on.
you'd live unless you had a parachute.
And then I guess one last piece of advice you can give a young buck or even somebody in their 30s, 40s, 50s looking to get into real estate. What's one piece of advice?
You can just do things. You don't need to wait for someone's permission. You don't need to wait for the right time. There's never going to be the right time. There's always going to be things going on. It's life, if it all just depends on what your mindset is and what you want to do, what you want to build, but there's never going to be the right time. I would argue the best time is right now. And it's kind of like the best time to plant a tree is right now. You wait, no, the best time is to do it right now because things are only going to get more expensive. It's only going to get harder. There's only going to be more. There's factors. Your life's only going to get more and more stressful as you get married and have kids and do all these things and have activities. So why not now? That's my advice.
Great piece of advice. Well, that's Zach Molzer for you, 24-year-old developer. God knows what he's going to be doing in 10 years, but come back in 10 years, I might have another podcast with him and we'll get
Let's
an
do
update.
it. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, thank you so much.
100%. Godspeed.
Godspeed. That was good.